All right. Hey, hello everyone. Sorry I have been a little bit out and away from videos this week. It's been a week where I've just been, watching games done quick, and I've been thinking about videos that I want to make. So probably, once GDQ ends up pretty much in the next day, I'll have, free time again to stream as well as make a whole bunch of Wotv videos for stuff that I wanted to do, including talking about the Diggs bet. I actually have something to announce about that this week, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I'm here to talk about and finish with my review of Astoria. But before that, housekeeping the previous video where I talked about Resnick, who is the new character who will be coming to the JP side this week. I you know what? Just every once in a while, I make a mistake. Some people will say more often than usual, but this one was definitely my bad. And that was the fact that I kept referring to this job, her main job, as cleric, because I got my wires crossed on this one about this job. It's very clearly devout. I was talking about Minwoo in the video. I was talking about the abilities that devout has, but for whatever reason, I just kept revealing or talking about it as cleric for some reason. So my mistake. I posted a comment in that video, but anyway, that's my bad. So anyway, all right. Now, let's talk about Astoria, because he is a character that I think is incredibly influential on the JP side right now. As a matter of fact, the entire water element is basically influential. It wasn't until very recently that I kind of took a look at water, and matter of fact, a lot of the JP players have been talking about the water element. I mean, first of all, Ray Ches, who is the water elemental selection quest character, is an absolutely incredible character. The two characters that I have yet to review in terms, I can just review right now. Both Ray Ches as well as Rafias, if I'm getting that name even close to right. Both the Ice and Water selection quest characters are the only two selection quest characters that are really worth building. The Ice character has proven that she's pretty good in Ice Elemental teams. The only thing that was kind of holding her back was the fact that Fire was really good at the time. And Raychez is actually just a really good character. So both of those selection quest characters I would recommend. And up until Celeste came out with FF6, Water was actually in kind of a really good place. I mean, it had access to a healer, it had access to physical and magical options. The only thing that it was really missing was maybe a little more towards range, but it was kind of missing a tank, and it was missing a 100 cost character. And for all intents and purposes, Celeste is a pseudo 100 cost. I mean, she has a 90 cost label on her, but she is very much a, for all intents and purposes, and power level and influence on the JP side, she is a 100 cost character. But, everybody had made mention of the fact that, well, Wind has 100 costs. All these elements have 100 cost characters, but Water is the only one missing it. And then we got Astoria, and Astoria has been so powerful, so great in his just what he's capable of doing, that he really took Water from being a okay element into an absolutely incredible element. And that is basically the full team that we're looking at now. And it wasn't only until recently that I realized just how good Water Vision cards are. And what's even better about Water Vision cards is most of them aren't even limited. So much of the time when I'm talking about vision or parties and how good it is, there's always this caveat. This is limited, especially with vision cards, because, for instance, Fire is very held back by how strong the Crystal Chronicles vision card is, which really hasn't reappeared that many times, but is pretty important for Fire. As such, Water just has a lot of vision cards that aren't limited at all, like the Kraith card, which has Human Killer, or the Chaos Odin card, which has just generally power. But yeah, overall, Water has access to really good vision cards constantly and really good characters. Now, of course, 3 of these characters in this party are limited, and I'm getting way too much into right now about things that are not Astoria for Astoria's final verdict. But I am kind of setting the stage for the point that water was a really good element. Celeste gave it one of the pieces that it was still missing, a absolutely top tier tank. And then last but not least was just it really needing a great DPS, and that's where Astoria finally completes the puzzle of the water element. So this is a level 115 build. It is not a full 120 as of yet. I'm still approximately 50 odd shards from finishing him off, but you can get a good idea for just how good of a build you can potentially do this character. And if there's anything that has changed between the previous iteration of this review and this final verdict, it's basically just how more amazing this character is. First of all, as you can see, almost 9,000 HP. He will hit 9,000 HP, I can promise you, before his level 120. 1,500 attack, that will also be going up. 26 defense, 15 spirit, 103 speed, 339 for dexterity, and 342 for luck. As for his resistances on the current build, this is not finalized as completely yet, but you can see that I have got a pretty nice build here going for resistance, with a fair amount of resistance to all major damage types that are a primary concern at this point, and actually a nice extra little boost against magic, as you can see for elemental wise. Now, once the extra new water vision card is complete, that is going to be shooting up his water resistance by an extra 20%, and I can get lightning a little bit higher once I have completed his TMR build fully. But as you can see, it is an overall impressive amount of stats that I have been able to glean onto this character. And much in the same way as I talked about my previous build with Violet, the TMR is of course a major component to how good this is. So basically what is kind of really quickly becoming the agreed upon thing to do is O's TMR and building it. As you can see, I have gone for an HP and attack build, getting about 14 evasion, a little bit of aim, some critical, a little bit of critical evasion, about 800 HP, which isn't bad for a sword, and 231 attack, which is pretty nice overall. But for anybody who says, hey, you could probably build a higher attack katana in other ways, right? Yes, however, this is a katana with Human Killer on it, which is more than enough to make up for any damage problem, or, like, for any amount where people are like, well, you're just not getting enough damage. Well, there's Human Killer on this with Odin's Human Killer and Human Killer on the Water Elemental Vision card, so I'm not entirely too worried about this build. This is giving us elemental resistance as well as water attack up, HP up, and acquired AP up, to name a few. But as you can see, I'm pretty just overall happy with how this build has went. Speaking as to what I was saying earlier as to why my opinion of Astoria has gone up, I mean, this kind of build effectively means that his limit burst is almost guaranteed to damage max every single time, which is very scary for opponents, to considering that he hasn't even hit with any of the secondary effect of his limit burst potentially reaching upwards of 4,000 to 6,000. That is all incredibly very impressive, but a lot of other people in my guild, I found out, have been doing different builds. Some doing more accuracy builds, some doing more defensive builds, and it really does allow Astoria to maintain a wide variety of roles. As you can see, mine is very much a physical attacker that will be able to deal high amounts of damage while having enough HP and defense to make him a fairly considerable brawler with over 100 speed still. All in all, compared to a lot of other characters, what they are able to get for stats, this is one of the highest I've ever seen. And going into his what he is still missing from my current build, taking a look up here, that HP node again is going to shoot up his HP, gets a little more attack, of course the stats from leveling him, and his dual hit ability, which will be coming once he is complete. But long story short, Astoria has just proven to be a very incredibly flexible character for how you build him. People have been building him more as a pseudo tank. People have been building him as like mine with just DPS and damage bruiser and speed. Some people are building him with accuracy, and the thing that's really interesting is that the accuracy TMR builds are actually countering the light evasion builds. Long story short, Astoria has become one of my most highly valued characters. If Violet is just one of my favorites for how fun she is, then Astoria is going to be the backbone of a lot of damage comps, regardless of whether or not it's water. Much in the same way when Cloud came out, I think that this character just has a long lifespan because he is so powerful and is so capable, and that speaks worlds as to what I think his more final value will be. And again, we'll get more. He will get higher AP generation, higher elemental resistance as soon as his TMR build is complete. Mostly the thing that needs to be completed at this point are these bonuses at the bottom here. They will get higher as I actually complete it, but it is pretty costly to build an entire pink loaded TMR. So let's go over to here while I talk about a few other of my findings to do with Astoria. So this week I've also been using Astoria, or should I say for the last 2 weeks actually, I've been using Astoria very heavily in sorry, I lost my train of thought, in Arena, in PvP section, combined with Celeste and Oberon. The things that I have found is that, yes, lightning still provides a bit of a problem, mainly because it's lightning, it's the counter element. So I think it's fair to expect that it will still be a uphill battle, especially against full mono lightning elemental team, which I have done. I've won a few games as opposed to the few games I've lost, so I'm averaging about 50% chance of winning against a lightning elemental team. Most of those teams have been full 120s, but some of them have not, so that is a considerable thing. In terms of matchups versus fire, it's a 100% loss for fire every single time. There has been no variation. They have all been full level 120s, mixed with different characters from Reigns, Monts, Setias, as well as Anniversary Glassies, to name just some of the compositions I've seen, but they have been 100% loss rates against the Celeste Astoria combination with Oberon as well. And in terms of other elemental compositions that people might be interested in, Golbez's are direct loss with Mono Darks. Mono Darks in general are pretty much guaranteed losses, although the amount of points range between about 300 and 400. As for light elemental comps, primarily dealing with evasion, they have been basically auto wins, with a few exceptions, but definitely not the rule. So Oberon has been helping out with that, but Astoria and Celeste are the real ones that are making a incredibly strong composition. So Astoria, very powerful with this TMR build in Arena, not only for survival, but also dealing damage to the enemy. But Astoria's damage output is just incredibly high, whether it's against regular enemies, but more advantageous against humans. And he's starting to pop everywhere up on the JP side. Astoria battles are pretty interesting because of the different types of builds people are going with on the TMRs. And at that point, it's just kind of getting the mono or the new water vision card up that can give a high or a extra bonus against other water elemental teams. So yeah, the long and short of it is that Astoria ended up being better than I thought, but primarily because of TMR builds. The TMR Katana build that a lot of people have been doing, I've just been hearing positive results about it. Astoria's kit as well is just really good. There's almost entirely no point in running him as a sub job. I guess that's the one thing I'm forgetting to touch upon is my experience with sub jobs. I've basically just kept him as his primary while disabling his AP blade for a lot of different reasons. First of all, his AP blade is more of a distraction. You really want his range limited, or at least mostly limited at the start of the battle. And the main reason for that is because the main reason for that is because you want him using his buffs. You want him to spend a few turns. As soon as he does do his major HP buff, which we'll just get, I think it's still running active right now, but you want him to use his guts, obviously, to make sure that he is running that. But you can see with his HP buff that is currently maxed out, he's going up to approximately 10,000 HP already, and he's getting the healing capability off of that. Once you combine that with the guts effect, which into his EX gets a second cast, he is just really scary to fight. Just really, really, really scary. As a matter of fact, I think we can even delay this a little bit if it means that we can get a better idea of his damage. So you know what? Let's just take over here and have a little bit of fun. Why not? Right? We're here to have a little bit of fun. So here, as you can see, the limit burst cost for how strong this thing is ends up only being about, like only 29. It's an incredibly cheap, incredibly powerful limit burst, and that is interesting. I mean, his AI is very good about using his buffs, which is something that I have appreciated more over the last little bit because of how advantageous it is when in combination with Celeste. And yes, Celeste is just a major component here. If Water did not have access to Celeste, I don't think I would be quite as high improved, because you know, who's going to benefit more from it than characters with incredibly high amounts of HP. And guess what? Celeste has that, so very nice. Let's see if this worm is just being problematic. I mean, here you can see a good idea of how much damage he is getting off of that, but I really want to demonstrate his limit burst, so we're just going to pass a bunch of turns. We're going to hope this worm doesn't really get another chance, or at least moves a little bit close. Even there, we got a preemptive attack before the worm was able to. Thanks. But yeah, you can see here, this is not even with the human killer. We're just dealing so much damage off of this limit burst right here. And if this was a boss with even more HP, guess what? We'd be getting the secondary turn and third turn effects. We're getting, you know, the sword resistance reduction down. So it's just so powerful, the combination that this character's kit has. He really is my highest recommended character right now. I don't think I can really say anything else about how amazing this guy is, because every single part of his kit has been proving to just be better and better. And the worst thing is just that other people kind of also have this character too, but not as many as you would think. Either way, Astoria ended up one of my highest recommendations, way higher than Violet. I think that this character is just going to be essential into the future, and will be probably just like previous year with Lord Mont. I think that this character we're going to be talking about him still as being really strong, like 1 year later. But, well, you know, quote me on that, and we'll see where we are at that point. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and Globalers, maybe plan on getting this guy. He's really, really insanely good. Thanks for watching. See you next time.